Hello friends, this is Molly with Soul School Tarot and Astrology. I'm really glad to have you guys here with me today. This is our very first demonstration for Tarot 101, which, by the way, I am going to be putting this on YouTube if you guys are curious. Tarot 101 is a 4-month Patreon course. It is, I have a couple different tiers right now that you guys can join, and I'm actually editing those just to make them more user-friendly, I guess, more accessible, more appealing to you guys. But there's a link in the description box below if you guys want to join me for Tarot 101 and take a peek at the lesson that goes along with this demonstration. In that lesson, I talked about 5 methods or techniques for understanding the tarot, for learning the tarot, and then also when you are deciphering a tarot spread like the one that we have before us. So I'm going to explain the spread to you guys. We are going to go through the 5 different methods, and then I'm going to talk about how intuition can help inform the reading as well. And as I said in the lesson, if you guys are just beginning tarot, any point that you guys are at in the study of tarot, please take the tools that I'm handing to you and make them your own. You get to come up with your very own toolbox using one or hopefully multiple of these methods. Eventually, you may incorporate all of them, but let's go ahead and start off as slow as you need to. So definitely take whatever resonates as we are going through this. If there's one of these tips or techniques that works for you, definitely continue to explore that. This is a spread that I use when I'm trying to understand how a situation is changing. Sometimes I will use 1, 3, or 5 cards in each row, but what these represent, this is, by the way, a collective reading. Make sure that whenever you're doing your readings, you're very, very clear about the question that you are asking. This is a collective reading regarding twin flame union. The reason I did this is it's just a topic that's been coming up in my readings a lot, so I wanted to kind of do one for the collective anyways. This top row represents energies that are leaving the situation. So this is going to be past energies. These are energies that are constant in the situation. So they may have been present in the past, but they're definitely still affecting the present. And then these are new energies that are entering the situation. And look at that right there. This is definitely a good looking reading for twin flame union. But let's go ahead and break this down by looking at some of the keywords, okay? So keyword memorization is your first method of learning the tarot. It's definitely not my favorite because it can be very, very limited, but we can go ahead and begin with this and just kind of see what clues the tarot wants us to look at based on our keywords. Now, one of the keywords that we often have that comes along with knights is change. We have a knight here and a knight here. So we know that in the present and in the future, we can definitely expect some change in this situation. We also have new beginnings. That is a keyword that goes along with the aces. So in the present energy, so these are constant energies, we see a couple opportunities that are available. That's what aces are. They have to be grasps in order for their potential to be achieved. And finally, we also want to take a look at the keywords of the different suits that are being represented here. So looking at what suits are showing up predominantly in a reading and the keywords associated with that suit can really kind of help you understand the crux of the message. We have a lot of cups here. There's a Queen of Cups. We have an 8 of Cups, we have a Knight of Cups, and a 2 of Cups. All right. The keywords that go along with cups are emotion, feeling, and intuition. So you can see we had a little bit of that in the past, not so much in the present, but a lot of emotion coming up in the near future. And I also want to point out that we have a couple of cards here, a 4 of Swords and a Star card that share a keyword of healing, rest, recuperation, renewal, rejuvenation. Both of those cards are associated with that concept. And in fact, it comes right after the sun reversed. The sun, one of the keywords that comes along with that is vitality, health, energy. So the fact that we have something that kind of represents ill health here, followed by two cards that that correspond with healing, those are very, very important keywords to pay attention to as well. Next up, I want to take a look at the symbols and archetypes. We will go ahead and start with archetypes. Actually, anytime you see a major arcana in the reading, that is a big energy, and that is in fact an archetype. So we have a magician archetype in the past. That is somebody who he's very good at creating things, but also can sometimes be good at casting illusions. The sun is an archetype which represents truth. So the fact that it's reversed right next to the magician, this combination here is already creating for me a trickster type archetype. So you can see how those two cards kind of work together to create a new archetype that wasn't already in the deck. Justice is also an archetype that is very important, as well as the star. So understanding what each of those figures represents, what is their story, what's their motivation, where are they coming from, what do they hope to achieve or bring into us, those are very, very important things to understand as well. I also have a couple of, we pointed out the knight archetypes before. Knights are very fast moving. They're usually on a mission. That corresponds a lot with the idea of the keyword of change. So those are two archetypes that we're going to keep our eye on as we're unpacking the reading. And then we have the queen archetype. And the fact that she is in the same position, right? She's the very first card in each of these rows, almost makes me feel like she is evolving into the justice archetype, because that is a feminine card. Femininity and masculinity, by the way, are about energies, not people. And we will discuss that later on in Tarot 101, but not too much later on. So a queen is somebody who's very resourceful. They're very receptive. They're very discriminating. They don't just let anybody in to whatever it is that they have manifested, that they are nourishing, that they are growing. So keeping an eye on these queen archetypes is going to be very, very important as we move through the reading. All right, next up, you guys, let's look for patterns with numbers. I don't see any math problems here. That's something that I talk about in Tarot 101. I have my own idiosyncratic way of reading with numbers, where sometimes math equations appear in my readings, but we have some very significant repeating numbers, and I'm talking about the number 1. We got the number 1 right there with the magician, the number 1 with this ace, and the number 1 with the ace of swords there as well. Of course, you can't really break down the number 1, but check out all the 2s we have on the table. Here's one right here, and check it out. Justice is card 11, so that actually breaks down 1 plus 1 equals 2 as well. 2s represent balance, they represent partnerships, and they do also represent choices. Also, the Sun card is actually Major Arcana number 19. 1 plus 9 adds up to 10. So I'm going to go ahead and classify him as a 1 as well. So that actually gives us 4 1s, a couple of 2s, and then we have an 8 here that also corresponds with the star card, which is number 17. That also breaks down into an 8. So number 1 is all about creation, new beginnings, opportunity, wholeness, potential. 2, I talked about some of the keywords there. 8 is actually one of the numbers that I associate with change in the tarot. Number 5 is the other number that I associate with change. And to tell you the truth, 5 can really represent chaos and instability, whereas number 8 is about change that takes place from more of a position of strength. So those are definitely going to be some numbers that I'm going to want, some meanings that I'm going to want to keep in mind as I move through this reading. And then I'm going to go a little bit out of order. In the lesson, I went keywords, symbols and archetypes, numbers, storytelling method, and then astrotarology. I'm going to go ahead and tackle the astrotarology real quick so that we can go ahead and just really move through that storytelling in a very natural and organic way. So astrotarology, actually one of the examples that I came up with in the lesson was Venus in Cancer as the Two of Cups. So because I have my personal natal Venus in Cancer, oftentimes when I see this, I get a rush of clairsentience. I know exactly what that card feels like. But we already pointed out a lot of these cups. So let's go ahead and talk about the water signs. Cancer, Scorpio, Pisces are things that might, are signs that might be important in the chart of whoever this Queen of Cups is representing, or this Knight of Cups reversed. I don't have my key on me, but I do believe that the Eight of Cups reversed is indicated by a planet in Pisces. I do believe it is a Pisces placement. We talked about, by the way, if you guys are not familiar with what astrotarology is, it's just a study of the associations between astrology and the tarot. Each of the minors is associated with a certain planet in a sign, but what's a lot more helpful sometimes is taking a peek at the majors and their planet and sign interpretation. So let's do that. The Magician is actually associated with the planet Mercury. So Gemini or Virgo energy. The Sun is associated with, you guys guessed it, the Sun. So that can represent Leos sometimes, but in general, it just has a lot to do with the archetype of the Sun, which has to do with truth and light. The Star is associated with the sign of Aquarius. And so that can have a lot to do with our vision of the future, have to do with hope, have to do with healing, maybe some spirituality as well. All right. And then finally, the astrological associations with the Justice card. It is the card that's associated with the sign of Libra. Libra has to do with balance. It has to do with this sense of justice, but also with partnership. So that is actually a very, very significant placement right there because we are doing a twin flame reading. So now that we have done all of that, I'm going to take the cards that I've got together and I'm going to look at the ways in which they're interacting with one another in order to put together a story. All right. So first things first, we have 3 figures in a chair, and they're all feminine figures because they all showed up in the same row, and this essentially represents past, present, and future. I'm going to call this a progression of the same character. And then, you guys, I got a couple of hints that are letting me know that this is all referring to the same character as well. I do also want to point out that right now I'm viewing this figure as the Queen of Pentacles and Queen of Cups. Later, this card is going to be playing double duty because it also has a significance when it comes to this line. So definitely just use your intuition. If you say, look, Justice card means this, and then later in the reading, Spirit's telling you Justice card means something else, understand Spirit is very, very efficient. Oftentimes, symbols and cards will play double duty in that way. But let me go ahead and tell you why I think this is all the same guy. First things first, look at the coat. Look at the coat. It's very interesting. How he had a red coat in the past, red coat in the future, which is kind of making him come back towards something. But he was running away. He was running away. That's what the Knight of Swords, the Knight of Wands does there. All right. The fact that he's holding a wand here and a wand there. And oh my gosh, look, you guys, he's got it in his hand right there. So again, looking at details. And by the way, That right there was an intuitive hit that I got, okay? Pay attention to what he's holding is what Spirit said to me. And look at that. We got a clue. So I definitely feel that these are our two partners. These are the two people actually being represented in the Two of Cups over here. And look what, okay, you guys, the pictures, their costumes are giving me more messages. Because you see how we started with the Queen of Cups, okay? So this is somebody whose heart is very, very open. And I'm going to go ahead and just get into the reading now, I guess. This is somebody whose heart is very open. She's very receptive and open to love and to her emotions. She understands her emotions. She's looking right at them. She's not trying to run away from them, correct? We've already discovered the key word for the cups is emotion. I did forget to point out the symbolism of all the water. The way in which you see the water flowing in a card actually gives us a lot of information about the movement and about the emotions that are currently present, okay? So these waters are moving around a lot and these look a little calmer, but because we have such similar colors, I'm going to go ahead and call this star card this lady as well. All right. By the way, when figures such as masculine and feminine figures show up in the readings, I do continue to refer to the person in the card, but that's not always going to connect to the person I'm reading for. For instance, that Queen of Cups may in fact represent a male or a non-binary person who is acting from a feminine energy. So we start out with this lady in this blue dress, and we got to go through this whole process before she ends up back in that blue dress. Blue is it's a very peaceful, a very calm color. And so right now we're using symbolism. Actually, we're using the symbolism of the color blue to understand that. Because here's a question that I have. She's wearing a blue dress and then it changes to red, right? You see that? But then she ends up back in this blue dress. Blue represents calm to me, but red represents ferocity, right? It represents passion, maybe even a little bit of anger. So I'm going to go ahead and say that the feminine in this story started out in a very, very loving place, ended up maybe a little more grounded. We'll talk about what the Queen of Pentacles is there. She ended up kind of having to go through this red dress phase in order to get back to this blue dress. But let's look at this guy. Okay, remember I said these are the two figures that are being described in the first two rows. He's not wearing red. He is dressed a lot more like, it's not exactly the same, but it's a pattern, right? He's dressed a lot more like the Knight of Wands. So somebody who's out chasing their passions, so to speak. All right? Interesting. So the Magician is a creator energy. All right? Remember, the top row is energies that are leaving the situation. The middle row is energies that are constant in the situation. And the bottom row are energies that are entering the situation. So we started out with this couple. All right? This is interesting, you guys. Stick with me because this is what storytelling is all about. We started out with this couple in the past. Right now, we've got this couple. You might notice that in both placements, she is turned away from him. Wow. Okay. So how do we get from that couple to this couple to this couple? Okay. So in other words, the Queen of Cups and the Knight of Wands somehow end up together. Interesting. We're going to have to pick apart what the Queen of Cups means versus the Knight of Wands, okay? Let's talk a little bit more about this figure because the Magician, they start off as the Magician, somebody who's in that red cloak. Red to me is also associated with the root chakra, so feelings of safety, wholeness, making sure that all of your needs are met. I really feel like this is a creator energy. So this is somebody who's very good at manifesting whatever it is that they desire. Intuitively, Spirit is telling me that this red is significant, that this red has to do with the fact that this person has been manifesting from their root chakra. So in other words, they've been manifesting from a place where their primary concern is safety and getting their needs met. Okay? The Knight of Wands, because he's fire, he's very fast moving. Another symbol that will point you to the meanings of the wands is that all of their horses are moving at different speeds. So the rate of change in the present is very, very fast. In the future, if things get going, they could be moving a little more slowly and a little more fluid. But so this person is somebody who is actively pursuing their passions. All right. So somebody was trying to create something in the past, and then they threw off that red cloak and stepped into this yellow cloak. This yellow cloak represents the solar plexus. So really exerting your will in the world. All right. Something happens though, coming up in the future, that makes him put that red cloak back on. Now, this is a reversal. There are just a couple in this spread. Not everybody reads reversal when you're beginning to learn tarot. You really, really, really don't have to. But I do. We'll talk about that later on the different ways that you can read that. Okay. So this is a little bit of an energy that's kind of getting stuck. In fact, this is somebody walking away from an emotional situation that is not very satisfying to them. And by the way, 8 does have to do with change, just like the Knights. So that indicates that there's some change coming up. But this person, when it's reversed, I see that the person is actually walking back towards a set of cups that they left behind in the past. Okay, you guys, there's a symbol that I definitely forgot to point out when we were going through that part of the demonstration. Look at these circles. Okay, the fact that these are all in a column and we have a big yellow circle in each one is really important. For some reason, Spirit wants me to pay attention to the fact that that circle keeps getting smaller. That circle keeps getting smaller. So what does it represent? Well, I'm going to go ahead and let these two pentacles. Pentacles, by the way, are something that exists in the tangible world. They can be tools, skills, opportunities. I'm going to go ahead and say that these two are replications of the sun energy. This sun, to me, represents truth. The opportunity that is presenting itself, and I'm just replacing that, in the future is an opportunity to present somebody with the truth. Wow, very interesting. All right. Now, I'm getting less column-based reading top to bottom messages there. So let's go ahead and read right to left. Energies that are leaving the situation. So stuff that went on in the past. I feel like this is a connection between somebody who was very good at creating whatever it is, manifesting whatever it is that they needed in the world. But I feel like they were manifesting from a place where they were most concerned with safety or maybe some of their base needs. The Magician, I'm going to let you guys know, that is a giant phallic symbol to me. The Magician is a very masculine energy. So I almost feel like this is somebody who was, the Magician can be a little bit of a playboy, but he can also be a caster of illusions, so to speak. Whereas the Queen of Cups is very, very, very highly intuitive. I feel like when these two people were together in the past, this person was trying to paint a picture that was not exactly accurate. Okay, because the sun represents truth to me. He was not, nudity represents vulnerability. He was not willing to be vulnerable. Okay, we have already identified this star card with her, and she's naked. So I feel like this whole whatever went on between them actually helped her to become more of a vulnerable person. And that actually leads to some healing on her part. But there was definitely something about this in the past that made it, the sun helps things grow, right? And so if it's, the sun is reversed, it almost thinks that there's something that's not growing here, but also something that's not being seen. The sun is the light. It illuminates the truth. And so whenever it comes up reversed, especially next to somebody tricky like the magician, I like to think that not necessarily that this person was being malicious and trying to lie, but I think that they were not being honest with themselves. So what was the result of that? I'm going to go ahead, and because he looks like a knight, I'm going to call this the same figure as the magician, the masculine figure, because we are talking about a twin flame relationship. That really caused this person to do some thinking. Okay? This person has gone within. They've decided they don't want to fight this situation anymore. They're tired of trying to manifest from a place that's not the truth. Okay? So you can see this guy's laying down. These swords represent the element of thought, the element of air, and also the division between the two of them is very symbolic to me. We have 3 swords up here, and the 3 of swords represents heartache. There's 1 sword down here, and I do actually link that to the Ace of Swords. It's almost like this person, there's some sort of 3 of Swords, some sort of heartache that came out of that situation. And in fact, if you look in the window, that to me kind of represents what's on this person's mind. I think that they're kind of thinking about that relationship. Interesting. So 3 of Swords representing heartbreak, plus 1 extra sword representing a new realization is what leads to peace and recuperation for that person. So those are past energies in this connection. Pardon my little cloth sliding around here. Now I see this Queen of Cups sitting as a Queen of Pentacles. Less receptive, okay? Before, this is a vessel that you can put things in. She does keep the lid on it though. So she's not just picking up anybody's junk, right? She's being very discerning. Now, this Queen of Pentacles, Pentacles do represent value. This person, she's still sitting on her same throne, but she has put away her cup and taken out her pentacle. What that means to me is that she's less concerned with emotional stuff and more concerned with getting her dough. Maybe just providing herself with a little bit of stability. But like I said, she's gone through this healing process. She's done the Star card. That's where she went, okay? After this situation went down with the Magician, she turned herself into the Queen of Pentacles. So rather than somebody who is, you know, giving, nurturing, she's somebody who's kind of standing her ground a little bit more, knowing her value. This is her pentacle. If you want this pentacle, you're going to have to earn it, all right? This Knight of Wands decided to go out there, pursue his passions, maybe try a few different things because the Knights are very quick. They're here for a good time, not a long time, especially the Knight of Wands, okay? I also like to pay attention to the amount of armor that somebody is wearing. I think this is somebody who's very, very guarded, but you can see they're moving very, very quickly in the direction. There's a storytelling element. He's moving in the direction of this Queen of Pentacles. What's on his mind? A new opportunity for love. Maybe even a new message. Maybe he found that 4th sword. Maybe he had a breakthrough and he wants to come and communicate that to her at this time. All right. The 10 of Cups is beautiful. We have another couple, of course. It represents union. There's a home. There's a nice little flow of water through the valley. Maybe there's going to be kids in the future. Who knows? But there's a rainbow. All the cups are upright. And this is the most cups you can have. It's 10. So this is ultimate emotional fulfillment. I think this person, this magician, didn't realize what is his source of happiness. I think he really didn't realize what it was that it would take to make him happy. And he had to go and think about that. He had to go and think about his yellow because he's cloaked in the red, right? He's cloaked in thinking about his basic needs, about safety and security in the world. But If you can evolve past that, you can begin to follow your particular path in the world. So you're not just surviving, you're thriving, okay? The sun, I relate very much with the solar plexus. Chakras are symbolism that show up for me a lot in the tarot. So that is another set of symbols that you can study. The sunflower, of course, does get tied up in with that imagery as well. Okay. So I think this is somebody that had to go. They were creating and creating and creating, and then saying, I don't know if this is really what's going to make me happy. I've got to go think about this. So this person has thought about this, and I think he wants to present a new opportunity for happiness and a new truth that goes along with it. Now, this sword is very important because, do you see how we did that? We ended on the star here and started with the Queen of Pentacles. This is what she has become. This truth or this realization, this sword and that crown, look at that. This, it's just a sword and a crown floating in the air. This, it's being worn and held by justice. So this is speaking a truth that's going to restore balance. The scales always represent balance. By the way, these two pillars also are a symbol for me. They show up in the High Priestess and the Justice card, and they do represent balancing your intellect and your intuition, something that we have all been doing throughout this reading. So in order to restore balance, though, something has to be revisited from the past. I feel like this Justice card is now a combination of his truth and her response to that truth that she comes up with from this Empress energy. Because you see, I'm sorry, I said Empress, but this Queen of Pentacles, okay? So this Queen of Pentacles has her own truth that she wants to communicate in this situation. And I feel like she kind of wants to revisit what happened in the past. What happened in the past? We've got to go back to an emotionally unfulfilling situation and understand what it's going to take to leave it behind for good. The Page of Pentacles. Pages to me represent, let me get my cat off the table. New beginnings, messages, or to me, skills or tools. Pages of Pentacles specifically represents a piece of knowledge. Like, I know how to do the thing. This is Tarot 101, right? When you're a master of it, you'll step into the Knight, the Queen, and the King energies. But when you're just starting out, you don't really know how to do a thing. You're kind of a page in that area. And I feel like somebody in this situation was a page in the area. They didn't have a lot of skills or tools when it came to expressing their emotions, okay? So the Knight of Cups is somebody who has definitely, he's got some emotions to share. He definitely has some emotions to share. Here he comes with his cup. He wants to tell you how he feels about things. And we also talked about the color imagery. This is very calm, very serene, all right? And he did come out reversed. All right. So what this says to me, you guys, is that at some point in the past, in this twin flame connection, one person was very open and receptive to the connection. The other person was definitely active in creating the connection, but it's almost like they didn't know what for. All right. The fact that she is now being seen by the Knight of Wands as the Queen of Pentacles, and he wants this pentacle in his hand, lets me know that he wants to come back to her and offer maybe a new perspective, a new truth, a new realization. But in order for justice and balance to be maintained, issues about the past and the way that emotions were dealt with and communicated in the past are going to have to be revisited. So you guys, we did it. I hope you weren't too bored by that because it took 34 minutes, but that's just a way of breaking down all of the tools in our toolbox. In other words, our keywords, our symbols and archetypes, our numbers, our astrotarology, and our storytelling. all of those things are present here on the table, and we didn't talk about all of them. There's no way. We didn't talk about what those pyramids mean, or that gateway, or the vessels, the urns that the star card is holding, and that's okay. Because intuitively, I got tips, or I felt drawn to certain details, and that's really how your guides help you to narrow down what kind of message is trying to get across in the cards. So definitely like, comment, and share, you guys. As a teacher, as an instructor, as a guide, your feedback is so important to me. So even if you're not in Tarot 101, go ahead and give me feedback about whether or not this lesson was helpful to you. And if you want to get in on those lessons, you guys, just hit me up. We are on Patreon at Soul School Tarot and Astrology. That link is below. I hope you guys will check it out, and